Good morning, everyone. It's really fantastic to see so many of you here. It's really an honor, and I did bring some notes, and I think I was equally moved. My staff will tell you that I usually speak contemporaneously off the cuff, but I had so many important things to say that I actually did write myself some notes, so I may glance down occasionally to make sure that I thank all the right people and am as inclusive as possible. You know, it is, I thank Sarah Deer for that introduction. It's not always the easiest thing, believe it or not, to be the one in the suit. But it is an extraordinary honor to work for the Office for Victims of Crime. For myself and my staff, we have this federal role, and it means a lot of things. And people talk about us as the funders oftentimes. As you know, that we fund this conference and numerous grants and the amazing tribal set-aside this year for victim services in Indian country, which we were just so extraordinarily grateful for all of you, for your communities, and for everything that can happen, and our great hope and wishes. And for those that you pray, please do so that we will have one in FY19 and all the time going forward. We, my staff and I, and those at OVC, we see our roles in a way that maybe you don't know. We see our roles as being in service. And we are in service to those people that we represent, to the stakeholders, to the survivors, to the victims of crime. And for those of us that work on our tribal team, we feel grateful and privileged that we have this opportunity. And I always speak with my staff and say that we, in fact, it's not something that they'll tell you when you take your oath to serve in the Department of Justice. It's not something that they'll say to us when we go to the various trainings that the department requires us to go to. But it is at the core underpinning of everything that we do, and that is that we are your advocates. And so we take our responsibility deeply and seriously, and as we heard from our prior speakers, from our hearts. And it is our duty and it is our privilege to do so. So I did want to share that with you on this closing day of this extraordinary conference today. This has been an amazing conference, right? Yes. It is, I think, the 6th one that I've been at. I might be off a year. So how many of you, and I'll squint through this, for how many of you is this your first Indian Nations conference? All right, good. Well, hopefully not be your last. And for how many of you is it your second? Little less, there we go, but I know some people had to leave. And for how many of you have you been to more than 2? All right. So this is obviously something so much more than a conference. One of the battles that we have in our building, for anyone who's not attended this, and all the, and this is a technical term, stupid bureaucratic things that we need to fight for is usually for people who have not been here. This is, there are other meetings, there are other terrific conferences. I don't want to take away from anyone. But this is an extraordinary experience that is central and core to all of us that work for Alaska Native and American Indian people. And so we be rest assured, as people are asking to make sure that this happen again, that part of the things that we take with us every time we come and when we return to Washington is to make sure that this happens and to make sure as best as we can at OVC that this happens in a way that is responsive to the needs of all of you. Everybody comes here for various reasons, and I think that's one of the things from a sort of federal perspective for some people is hard to understand. It's a conference, so everybody comes to learn, obviously, but we come to share our experiences, our losses, our hopes, our dreams, our strength, our power, and our ability and resilience to move forward. So we are tasked with sharing that when we are in Washington so that people understand that. Obviously, we come to network to meet with our new friends, our old friends, our continuing friends, and to make the acquaintance and the networking that we need to help us know that we're not alone. You are not alone. You have the 1,200 people that came to this conference in its fullest time when everybody was here, and everyone that supports them. And all of the support and resources that you saw today, they go on. They don't exist just in this place at this time. So I think it's really important. I always knew from when I was doing my work to be connected, to know that other people had my experience or similar ones, so that I knew that we were not alone and we are not here. And of course, to recharge. And what a beautiful experience for us, for those who are here in the desert, to be on this land of the Agua Caliente tribe is also a real, I think, an honor and a great experience for all of us. So thanks to the tribe for having us here. Also, I think in the concept and in the theme of what this year was about, braiding strength for hope, healing, and for the path forward, is just so on point for us, isn't it? Because it goes to that idea that we're not alone, that we are blended together in the things that we try to fight for, in seeking justice, which is one part, and seeking healing and restoration to those victims of crime, for their families, for their communities, and ultimately for changing the course of well-being for all of our people. And I think that is what's really a dominant theme for me, and so this one really resonated for me. I want to thank in that, obviously to thank TLPI and to all of their other partners, all of their folks that work with them. This is, if you walked around here over the last two and a half days, did this thing run really smoothly? If you look in your program, there's 6 pages of people to thank, because there's so many people, but TLPI is the nadir point to run and collect and organize all of their staff, all of the volunteers, all of the other TA providers, all of the various partners. There's this hotel and everything that happens here. There's 12 other hotels that they have to work with. There are all the moving parts of the AV and putting up all the equipment and having all you here and having this all be so beautiful and so resonant, and all these amazing speakers. It's an amazing accomplishment. And so let's thank everyone who participated in putting this together. I also want to thank our MCs, Sarah Deere and Kelly Stoner, who have kept this going and positive and made it fun while we sit in a room, which is not always the easiest thing to do. And I also wanted to thank all of you for being here and for the work that you do. And I want to say more about that, but I wanted to take a moment. If you have your Spiral books in front of you, this is a great way to find your way. We had an app this year. Woo! This makes me happy. And, but in this book, perhaps you didn't page through every page. On page 22 of this Spiral book, there's a tribute to our former director at the Office for Victims of Crime. And those of you that have come here over the years who have worked with OVC, you may have known and met or seen Joy Frost speak here. And unfortunately, on March 2018, we lost Joy Frost after a valiant battle with cancer. And as you can see, it still chokes us up. The last picture, if you see in here, the last official meeting that she went to was here at Indian Nations in 2016. She was a warrior for victims' rights. She was a champion for Alaska Native and American Indian communities and victims of crime. She fought every battle, and it was her great, great honor to come here every time that this conference was put on and to advocate and make sure that it was done in the right way. She is sorely missed, and I know that while she's here with us today in her own way, that she is just so grateful for everything that you do, for your courage, for your strength, for your resilience, for your absolute commitment to victims of crime, to taking your time away from your families and your loved ones every day in your work, to having to bear all of the things that you hear and that you help people to heal from and that you fight for on their behalf. And so I thank you for her, for myself, for OVC, for everything that you do. I want to say from my oldest ancestors, Lachit Raot, which is goodbye, on the 6th day of Hanukkah. And I wish you peace as you move on your path forward. Thank you all so much.